You all know them. In fact, you've probably been attacked by them on the internet if you've engaged in any form of sim racing conversation. The simulator cult member and mega fanboy. In this video, I'm going to explain how they managed to ruin the very simulators that they are fans of, and reveal the surprising amount of power that they hold in the sim racing space. This entire video is maximum unsubscribe territory, so definitely subscribe to unsubscribe. Click the like button if your fingers aren't damaged from too much sequential shifting. And of course, this content is only possible due to our channel members, Patreon supporters and subscribers over on Twitch. Thank you so much for allowing us to truly be uniquely terrible. I want to begin by being very clear that there is a difference between a sim racing cult member and someone that just happens to be a fan of a specific simulator. They might even only like one simulator and they might not enjoy the others for whatever reason. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being super mega passionate for just a single simulator, given how much time and effort they take to get good at and how much it can cost to play some of them. You'd actually expect many people to only really be able to get into one single simulator. If that simulator happens to be Automobilista 2, Richard Burns Rally, iRacing, ACC, AC, or the phenomenal Barbie Horse Adventures Riding Camp, it really doesn't matter, and it's fantastic to just have fun with what you can enjoy at any point in time. And someone just happening to enjoy something, maybe not even that critically, doesn't mean that they are a cult member. It's like saying that I'm the member of the cult of Teabag. Well, actually, to be fair, that probably is true. But very obviously, if someone's having fun and they're not doing harm to anyone else, I think that is pretty universally absolutely fantastic. It is, though, a rather disturbingly narrow line between being a fan and enjoyer of something and transitioning across to being a full-blown cult member. Let's be honest, if you've been around sim racing for a while, we all know the sim racing cult member behaviours. The inability to not get emotionally upset if someone says something negative about their simulator of choice. An inability for them themselves to be critical of the simulator that they happen to be playing the most. Them spending more time on forums and Reddit than actually playing the simulator that they supposedly would jump off a building for. A shocking limited experience of other simulators, yet somehow they know exactly which one is the best, and it is their simulator. And the classic all-time favourite of hunting out live streamers, real race drivers or any media that happens to say anything positive about their simulator, spamming that all over forums and Reddit, but conveniently ignoring any negative constructive criticism of their simulator of choice, even if that constructive criticism comes from real race drivers, live streamers and general media. As a final bonus, you all know the cult member that sees themselves as somehow an unpaid member of the development team for their given simulator of choice, a behaviour that no developer would take advantage of. That's all good and well, and obviously that behaviour happens in everything, not just sim racing. Humans are humans and humans are stupid. Of course, that doesn't apply to me. But how do they, as I claim, hold back racing simulators and sim racing? Well, hold on to your horses because this gets quite complicated, but I'm going to try my best of explaining this as concisely as possible. Please bear with me. One of the large, if not largest aspects of what makes a racing simulator or title called, described and marketed as a simulator popular, and popular on a wider scale than just mega super hardcore fanboys, is the commodity of the belief that a given racing simulator is indeed realistic or doing a good job of simulating. As you've seen from many recent simulators, they vary in the degree of quality to which they actually do simulation. But the perception of the quality of simulation is what's important rather than the actual reality. The vast majority of people playing racing simulators are not at a skill level or knowledgeable enough to know if indeed a simulator is realistic or not, or how that realism or unrealism actually affects the game that they're playing. And more importantly, when something is terrible in a racing simulator, flight simulator, or even milsim, if the player believes it's realistic, they don't go, bloody hell, what a terrible game, the developer needs to fix that and sort it out. They go, oh my god, that real world activity is so hard. I have so much more respect for race drivers, pilots and soldiers. The failure was entirely down to my inability to understand the real world activity, and not my inability to understand this video game that I'm currently playing that is deeply flawed. So the perception that the simulator is realistic is really, really important. And if that perception is maintained, there really is no reason for a developer to bother to risk drastically changing things with their racing simulator flight sim title. Especially given that the majority of the perception does not come from the simulator itself and what's demonstrable whilst playing the racing simulator, but it comes from arguments from authority, completely arbitrary factors, and ludicrous amounts of marketing spend. Get to the point, gamer muscle bold git idiot face. Where do the cult members fit into this in a negative way? The cult members act as a perfect shield to maintain the illusion that everything is fine. A third-party defender and a very convenient way to stifle, misdirect and conceal genuine criticism of a given simulator, and thus make it such that the developer feels less pressure to actually address fundamental issues with a given simulator. If you think about it from a developer's perspective, if they have a simulator and it's perceived as being a fantastic realistic simulator, why on earth would they bother to change anything? And if you look at the history of simulators, generally the only time a simulator has changed and improved is when there's been direct competition to a specific simulator with a direct comparison between feature sets, so that the reality of one simulator being drastically worse than another can no longer be concealed, or you have real world drivers or authorities pointing out that the simulator that is claimed to be realistic is in reality a lot less realistic than is perhaps being claimed. So, the power that cult members have in the sim racing space is actually quite a large power. If a simulator has enough users such that it then has more dedicated cult members, those cult members reach a critical mass where a simulator can just stay the same for decades. Fundamental issues will never get addressed. Those cult members will suppress any critical and obvious suggested improvements to a video game. And with the way the internet works, it goes so far as that they can actually control the entire narrative of a title in the online space purely by brigading or attacking any dissenting view. You might notice some similarities in other real-world issues and things that actually matter outside of sim racing, where people know that if they say certain things, regardless of how correct they are, they will receive so much backlash and misery that it's just not worth them bringing it up. Or if they do bring it up, they better well sit on the fence. And that's why cults can be really quite powerful and very effective at shaping things. Ironically, even if it's in the detriment to the cult itself, which is why cults end up normally undermining themselves in the long run. Now, there is a silver lining to all this. At the end of the day, developers of racing simulators are totally insane, and they tend to, like anybody, do completely random things, and will do things based off their own internal motivations, some of those rational, some of them irrational, and some of them just due to the changing landscape of sim racing and what happens to be going on with technology at a given point in time. And because cult members have to follow their religion of choice, they will go along with whatever the developer happens to do. So on the occasions where developers actually do good things, the cult members will amplify that as well. A broken clock is right twice a day. And as well, it's really worth saying that developers of racing simulators and simulators in general are pretty much always trying to just do the best they can with very limited resources, whilst trying not to kill the financial viability of the project that they're working on. The vast majority of anything that's terrible with video games and racing simulators, or anything complicated, can normally be explained by the fact that the thing is complicated and nobody has enough time to actually do what they want to do. You can kind of think of games development as a whole bunch of nerdy people stuck in a building that's on fire, and those nerdy people running around with buckets trying to put fires out and then sell something before the fire consumes the entire building and everyone in it. Rest assured, there is no way of stopping the fire, but clever developers manage to palm that fire off to someone else that has a lot of money before it's too late. In conclusion, sim racing cultists will always exist. They will be damaging racing simulators and making sim racing worse whilst being completely unaware that that's what they're doing. Businesses will take advantage of these sim racing cultists for their own benefit. And we will have all died of old age before a racing simulator is released that ticks all the basic boxes for a racing simulator to be both realistic and a fun video game. If you got to the end of this video, congratulations, you've wasted some of your life. If commenting, give us a shrimp and a teapot emoji, and then we know who has wasted more of their life than others. I'm not sure how interesting this video was, but I started it and felt like I should finish it. I'm going to drink more tea before making the next one, and hopefully it won't be as dry. It'll be a moist video. Thank you for watching, but until the next one, happy tea drinking, take care, and goodbye.